Randomizers, randomizers, randomizers. With the explosion of popularity of the roguelike and other similar genres, these new takes on old games followed quickly in their wake. While randomizers may come in a couple of different forms and many different levels of absurdity, their goal is the same: take a game and turn it into something with theoretically infinite replayability. Presently, there are two main categories of randomizers: progression-based randomizers and statistics-based randomizers. Progression randomizers are about taking a game with a variety of items or powers required to finish them, and moving these items to new locations, forcing the game to progress in a different order than normal. These randomizers are generally more nuanced and have specifically coded logic to ensure every unique seed is completable. Statistics randomizers are for games that do not require more than your base moveset to finish them, so they instead shake up such things as enemy stats, or in the case of games like Mega Man, the weapons you receive, and other details to keep the game surprising each time. Today I want to talk about progression-based randomizers in the form of the Legend of Zelda series specifically. Consider this a primer, if you will, to help provide context and understanding to some of the most frequent content on my Twitch channel, as well as what may show up here on YouTube from time to time. Anyone even vaguely familiar with the Legend of Zelda series likely knows the basic concept on how these games go. You are Link, the hero. You explore a variety of dungeons, collect the game's MacGuffins, and earn the Triforce of Courage before going to save the Kingdom of the Weak. Along the way you find treasures, usually within the dungeons themselves, that give you access to new areas throughout the land. The structure happens to work particularly well with a randomizer format, as it takes what was once a linear progression of areas unlocking and shakes it up so that the order becomes completely rearranged by where the items get placed. A simple example of this is in A Link to the Past. You may be given the Titan's Mitts that normally come from the Thieves' Town dungeon as a means of entering Dark World portals, rather than the hammer that you receive from the Palace of Darkness. You never truly know what you will find and where, so it creates this small rush of excitement whenever you wander upon a new toy and see the new options it presents to you for places to go. A randomizer can do much more than simply shake up item placements too, as several have developed even crazier options, like changing where all the doors on the map lead, or even randomizing the layout of the dungeons themselves. The more options a randomizer has, the more ways it allows you to play around and find settings you like. When it comes to actually playing the randomizer, you do not need much. A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time in particular have a website you can use to generate seeds, provided you have the correct ROM of the game handy. A Link to the Past uses the Japanese 1.0 version of the game, while Ocarina of Time uses the North American 1.0 version. You'll have to find these ROMs yourself, as directly linking them is a one-way ticket to Troublesville. I generally recommend picking up a map tracker for whichever randomizer you choose to play, provided that one exists. These are especially useful if you're not familiar with the original game, as it'll inform you what locations you can and cannot check. They're usually color-coded as well, so red squares are inaccessible, while green locations can be accessed, for example. Simply having one of these trackers with you can make figuring out a seed far less imposing. At this time, I'd personally recommend Big Dunka's tracker for A Link to the Past, and Emo Tracker, specifically using Hamsta's map package, for Ocarina of Time. These trackers are made with races in mind, so they can even show you what you can access via sequence breaking using a variety of glitches that have been deemed race legal by their respective communities. These include such tricks as fake flippers in A Link to the Past, which allows you to swim even without the flippers under certain conditions, as well as outright running on top of the water under different conditions. Discussing the setup and nature of all the allowed glitches would be another video in and of itself, but just know that these options are generally labeled with a unique color such as yellow. If you wish to learn the glitches to add more options to your experience, go right ahead, as some can prove to be very useful. Between the two, A Link to the Past is the far easier to learn game, as its list of usable glitches is much smaller and its movement is far less complex than Ocarina of Time. Both games come with a few different presets of rules to make choosing where to start easier for you as well. Should you decide to give either randomizer a try, I recommend starting with the default preset for both games, as each gives a simple rule set that can easily be completed by following the areas your tracker says you can access. Whether it be collecting crystals or medallions to defeat Ganon, I wish you the best of luck in your adventures, and hope this little primer gave you some context for what exactly I'm doing in all those wacky jaunts across Hyrule. Until next time, though, take care!